$182 billion every year to provide for 3 million people. And the cost to house one person is around $36,000. But that figure differs radically depending on what state we're talking about. That's the money we spend on housing those found guilty of crimes. And when it comes to how much each state spends on its prisoners, yeah, there's some wild inequalities there. Kansas spends about $23,000 on a prisoner every year, while Massachusetts spends about $307,000 on each inmate. Let's find out why, because I'm talking about our prison system and those incarcerated here in the good old US of A. Before we get to the meat and bones, let's take a quick look at some statistics about who's in our prison system. The last count of how many people are sitting in our prisons was done back in 2022, and at that time, there were well over 1 million people bidding time behind bars. At the time, blacks and Hispanics made up 56% of the inmate population, compared to making up only 32% of the population on the outside. Native Americans and Asians, they made up less than 3% of the incarcerated population. With that out of the way, know that our prison systems have two distinguishable parts, the state system and the federal prison. And the difference is based on common sense that dictates federal prisons are for those found guilty of federal crimes versus those found guilty of state crimes. That said, there's a couple of differences that stand out. For instance, security in state prisons is often lower than federal prisons. Sentences are usually shorter than federal prisons, and state prisons usually don't have the amount of funding that federal prisons get, and most state prisons are older, while a lot of federal prisons are newer. Regardless if it's a state or federal prison, prisons come in three basic types: minimum, medium, and maximum security prisons. For a bit of historical context, the federal prison system was created by the Three Prisons Act, and the first federal prison, Leavenworth, opened in 1906 in the great state of Kansas. Of course, the states didn't wait till the 20th century to open their prisons, because the first prison in America was in East Granby, Connecticut in 1773, with others following rather quickly. And if you're wondering how people were punished before prisons were a thing, well, say what you will about our prison systems, but they beat flogging, forced labor, maiming, along with the humiliation of public restraint. And of course, there's always a possibility of a good old death sentence. Now, so you know, the federal prison population of prisoners is roughly 160,000 people, and the largest federal prison is Leavenworth. And I ain't forgetting, but the biggest state prison is in Louisiana and is known as Angola, and it houses up to 6,300 inmates. The total population of inmates in state prisons is just under 1 million, at around 987,000 people. Now, at any given time, the percentage of people in prison, both state and federal, is 1% of our population, give or take. If you're wondering how that number stacks up to the rest of the world, it doesn't, because here in America, we enjoy putting people in prisons, and the only one that comes close to our joy is China. Now, we've covered a lot of basic facts about prisons here in the USA, but if you're wondering what daily life is like in a federal prison, yeah, let's talk about that. If you're a resident in a maximum security prison, your life might just suck. But then again, remember, you were convicted of a horrible crime, so you shouldn't be expecting a lavish environment, because what you find, you ain't going to enjoy. Because you're going to be spending up to 23 hours of the day all by your lonely, with limited contact, not only with other inmates and guards, but your loved ones as well. But you might get lucky and find a good book to read, like the Bible. Now, when it comes to minimum security prisons, life gets a little better. Hell, you might even live in a barracks with other prisoners, or at least have cellmates. Not to mention there's programs you can attend to help you become the model citizen we all know you want to be. And you have access to the great prison yard where you can make friends. But the best prison of all is the minimum security prisons. Housing is more dormitory style. There are actually few fences and there's all kinds of activities for you to engage in. And I'm beginning to think that none of this sounds all that bad for a prison. Well, if you made it this far, I do appreciate you watching, and I hope you found this video interesting. Well, damn it, you must have, because you made it this far. But let me just say this. As someone that has sat in a county jail for, was it just under a year, or was it only 6? I don't know, so long ago, can't even remember how long I sat in there. But I did it more than once, because I was a wild kid back in the day. But, you know, I don't like how we do our prison systems here. I think, you know, we have a lot of people. I mean, I have a good friend that went to prison for like minor marijuana possession. I mean, it's a fuck. And you know, 30 years later, 40 years later, Randy tried getting that shit exonerated, and they'd have none of that shit. It was just like for a couple of joints or some shit. I don't even remember, but it is what it is. But like everything in life, nothing is ever perfect, and that doesn't mean that we can't try to do better, because we should. But you know what? I don't know. I've never been to an actual prison, never walked inside an actual prison. And we've got an actual prison here in the town I live in. And it's like big granite and walls, man. Okay. Anyway, once again, I do appreciate you taking the time to watch. It always means something to me. But not enough of you do. Okay, I'm just rambling. I'm going to go on about my business and get my day started. Get it started off with a shot of tequila, because that's how I roll.